Let's cross live to Tel Aviv now, where I'm joined by Israeli MP Sharren Haskel. Sharren, thanks for being with me. These hostage videos are beyond cruel. What's been the reaction to them in Israel?
Well, it's absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, the families of the hostages, not just the 6 who were executed and brutally murdered, but more than 100 hostages were being held in the dungeons of Hamas, being tortured, starved, abused, physically and sexually. They're absolutely horrified, and our hearts are shattered. These are, our entire nation is not just mourning, but it's also in a great fear for the lives of our family members, daughters and parents and grandparents and babies and sisters and husbands who we want to bring back home as quickly as possible.
So that's now the big question. How do we get the rest of the hostages home? Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is already under a lot of pressure to bring about a ceasefire deal, but how do you make a deal with people who use hostages to make propaganda videos before shooting them in cold blood and then the next minute, let's negotiate a ceasefire?
Well, the Americans with the Qatari and the Egyptians have been sitting around the table for months now trying to bring a deal. And look, I sit in the opposition. I've been criticizing Netanyahu time after time about many, many things. But we have to say, and we have to say it upright, Netanyahu said yes to a deal a few months ago. Netanyahu said yes for the deal that's on the table right now. The American called it a very generous deal. The ones who didn't show up to the table, who refused to sit and even negotiate, who didn't send representatives, are Hamas. The ones who didn't accept this deal, any deal, is Hamas. And as much as this is difficult, I am criticizing a lot of what the government is doing now, that they did not put enough military pressure, not now, but months ago, in order to bring back our family members home. I mean, look, think about it. In March, there were many ministers and prime ministers and Kamala Harris and the entire international community who said, do not go into Rafah. The hostages were executed in Rafah. If the IDF 3 months before, 6 months ago, would have gone into Rafah, there would have been more pressure on Hamas, and maybe the IDF would have been able to actually reach them and rescue them. They could have been alive. And so, yes, we're furious and we're heartbroken. And unfortunately, not many of our allies stood beside us to make sure that we do everything in our capability to bring them back home.
Speaking of allies, and we've only got a short time left, but the United Kingdom has drawn heavy fire over its incomprehensible decision to suspend 30 of its 350 arms export licences to Israel. And this move was made apparently because of what the UK government called a clear risk that the equipment might be used to commit serious violations of international law. We've just got a short time left, but what's been the reaction to that in Israel? I mean, Israel would have expected the UK to be lockstep with them in fighting terrorists, and now the UK are forcing Israel to fight with one hand behind their back. We've just got 30 seconds, but I wanted to get your response to that.
So our alliance to defend freedom transcend any single government, and it feels like the Labour government in the UK actually betrayed Israel. They betrayed their allies. We are fighting the front war of radical Islam against Western civilization, and during these difficult times, we really need our allies, free democracies in Western civilization, who believe in freedom, to stand beside us.
Sharren, I got to leave you there, but thank you so much for your time.